This morning in the Atlanta airport, no one's missing a meal on Mac Wilburn's watch. With 11 restaurants to serve passengers, he's got dining for every destination. And it all started when Mac talked with First Horizon Bank about opening a franchise in the airport. Now it's open for business and cleared for takeoff. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Mac. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.
There's a fine line between genius and insanity, and we're walking it. It's the Marketing Madhouse.
I'm Moira Vetter, your host for the Marketing Madhouse, and we're going to talk about the fine line between genius and insanity that we're walking. My guest today is Allyson Burroughs, who is the Vice President of Brand, Digital Engagement, and Communications for Ricoh USA. Let's see if we can get a few more things in there. Today we're going to be talking about technology, sort of the digital evolution, its impact on marketing as a profession, what that's done for the skills requirements that we need from our marketers, and then the challenge of shifting a large organization into that sort of agile, innovative culture, which you're a client of ours, so we talk about this a lot, but you're also a great old friend. But before we get into the heady stuff, who are you? Tell us about you and how you got into marketing.
Well, first, thank you so much for inviting me to have a Madhouse conversation with you. I have been in marketing for most of my career. I started in the tax department at Turner Broadcasting,
Woo!
Which was super exciting because I could type fast, but quickly made my way into first and foremost public relations for a couple years, and then realized that while I love writing and I love PR and comms, I really wanted to dig into marketing and storytelling from a marketing perspective, and building belief, building trust, building love for brands. And oddly, I left Turner Broadcasting and the entertainment industry to move into government healthcare.
So you can tell stories.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. So I spent 14 years in government healthcare marketing, very complex technology platforms to state Medicaid programs around the country, so Medicaid management information systems. And then moved on, remained in business process outsourcing, business services for the rest of my career up until where we are today.
And so people don't think that's exciting work, but I know it's exciting work.
It's really sexy.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
Medicaid is really unbelievably interesting.
Yeah.
And business systems, I mean, I say it all the time. I absolutely love technology. I love being able to pick up this thing in my hand that's a phone, it's a computer, it's my portal to banking, and being able to make sure my child at college is covering her rent okay. And I know it all in the palm of my hand.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool. But everything that makes that stuff work and run and a lovely experience and is sticky, that makes me want to come back for more, it takes really smart people in the background who know a whole lot of stuff, including storytelling.
Right. You know, it isn't for everybody, but thank goodness there are people that do this, right, for a living.
Exactly.
So not everybody knows that we go all the way back to college, to back when none of us typed fast enough. And now it's about less typing speed and more of this, you know, how you apply your knowledge of users, right, and real life scenarios to leverage technology to do that. So let's talk about this. And one of the things I want to try to do, some of this technology is very complex, but at the end of the day, it's helping human beings be better, you know, do better. So let's talk about some of this technology, you know, that's sort of changing the world. Like, you know, there's been a lot of talk about business transformation. Certainly when the pandemic happened, you know, we all had to revolutionize the way we were doing, right? Everything was evolve this, evolve that. So talk about that. Talk about what you see, you know, at Ricoh, maybe specifically. What is this? What do you see in technology?
So I think first and foremost, I talk about transformation in business really more in the frame of evolution, because the journey's never over. In my mind, business transformation to me I kind of translate that into, once you transform, you're done, but you're never done.
Right.
And technology is never done advancing. So I think one of the interesting things that over time that I've experienced as a marketer is I have to constantly be curious about learning the what's next. Like, what smart thing did somebody go code next? I don't have to know how to code, but I need to be curious about what that can deliver.
Right.
And if I think back to one example of where I felt a bit before my time, in the very early days of online events, like virtual events, where you had these somewhat clunky, here's where your main opening room is, and then you have to click here to go into this experience
Here's
or that
the
experience.
Sidebar that's going to have the 3 bullet points of what the person is talking about.
Right. So I actually, out of sheer curiosity and wanting to do something fun, we put together, when this was back before ACS was acquired by Xerox, we were ACS and still government healthcare. I was like, oh my gosh, I am totally going to do all kinds of great captured video content. I'm going to go interview all my SMEs. And we built out this incredibly robust library of content and video and PDF documents that were attached that people could download. And it was way before its time. This was 2011, 10. And nobody knew what in the heck I was doing. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
Right.
Where is this gonna, who, what,
Where are we going to house all this stuff?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and it was an incredibly great learning experience for me because I had to think about what was all this content, where was it going to show up, how was it going to show up, what digital channels could we use. Fast forward to today, and we have the metaverse that's like 3D experiential capabilities, which we've gone from, in 15 short years, roughly, right? We've gone from this very awkward, clunky, unfun experience to, the metaverse, which is super cool and really fun and malleable in a lot of different ways.
Going through a wormhole.
Right. And so remaining curious about all of it and trying new stuff, technology can allow you to explore your business. Like, how did I bring a Medicaid story to life within this virtual environment? And today, my thinking is, how do I bring digital business services to life? Because let's be frank, if you're talking about automation, it magically happens in the air.
Right.
Like, all of a sudden your claim processed and all the data went to the right places. How do you make that concrete for someone?
Right. Well, and honestly, that is where creating marketing that includes things like digital sandboxes and prototyping where, you may not be able to see the ether that the magic is, but let me show you what the outcome might be, as a result of playing with some of these things. And I do think that I think it's very interesting because you talked about coming from Turner, which is this mystical movie thing. But a lot of what marketing has to do these days in an information society is take intangible, ethereal things that can't be seen and bring them to life, which is movie magic.
Yeah.
In a minute, I want to talk about that curiosity that you're talking about, what that does for marketing, because I think that as a career path, marketing has changed so dramatically in all these years. And so I think we're going to go away for a break, and then when we come back, I want to talk about what are those marketing skills, right? How has that changed your role as a hiring manager, right? Like what is when you look at casting for the perfect organization, how do you find that curiosity? What are the key things that it takes to have somebody sort of explore some of those imaginative, brand new, never been done before things and, turn that into something tangible. So we'll be right back with the Marketing Madhouse. We're back with the Marketing Madhouse and my great friend, Allyson Burroughs. So marketing has come a long way, baby. Right? It's a whole different world. You're talking about the difference between assembling content in a virtual environment and the metaverse. Right? It's crazy town. So talk about, because I think everybody's talking about the talent war, right, and where we're going to find the future marketers, and recruitment and HR are just huge things, right? We talk about them a lot. In fact, you and I have traded resumes, right?
Yeah.
We're constantly, hey, I talked to this person, and so talk about that. But when you think about the challenges marketing managers, vice presidents, CMOs are contending with, what happens now in this metaverse reality? From a talent acquisition standpoint?
Yeah, so I think two things come to mind. One is I've worked in very large enterprise organizations for most of my career, but I did spend a couple of years at a startup. And the type of talent you need when you're in a smaller environment is different from what you might want and need in a larger organization. In the startup world, you needed people who could wear a whole lot of hats and be able to be nimble in flip-flopping the hats depending on what day of the week it was or what hour of the day it was. In a large organization, what I've been building over the last year and a half at Ricoh is an organization where we have people who truly understand the full complexity of marketing, but who are able to specialize their skills and talents into whether it's being a content writer who just focuses on content writing, or if it's someone who is dedicated to social media and paid media, or if it's internal or external communications. The team that I've built they are adept at understanding and being able to move within the organization and wear different hats, but they're able to specialize because, let's be honest, not everybody can be an expert at absolutely every single thing. So when I'm hiring, what I see a lot of are resumes from people who are really strong generalists. They are the Swiss Army knife, jack of all trades, but maybe not master of any of them. Yep. They're really good at a lot of stuff, but they are not expert at the one thing.
Yep.
And so when I'm looking for talent and when my team is hiring, what I try to coach them to do is look for people who have really strong early career multi-experiences that have allowed them to explore a lot of different facets of marketing. But I want to see if we need a digital marketing manager who becomes that omni-channel orchestrator of a campaign across every channel.
Yep.
I need to see somebody who's got a lot of really strong MarTech experience, digital experience, and with results of what have you helped a company to accomplish or a team to accomplish.
Yep. I think you just brought up something that I think is something that's really important. When I look at resumes, there is something about in the early career, a lot of exposure, because you're talking about specialists it's important to have specialization, but I think early career generalization is where you find your passion and then you build on that. And so that's something important to me when we're interviewing people. If you're just somebody who, I tried this and then I tried that and then I tried this and I'm just obviously still trying things. That's very different than somebody that I tried these things and man, I found my niche, and then they can talk to you about how all those things culminated into this great specialization. And I think that's very different,
I agree. And I think that's where curiosity comes in.
Yep.
Is in the early days of figuring it out, I was very much, I wasn't the kid in college who said, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to be when I grow up, and I'm going to check all the boxes and be that thing.
Right.
I had no clue.
Yeah.
And I'm actually fine with not having had a clue because I am where I am because I thought, okay, I know what I love. I like to write. I like to tell stories. And let me just sort of figure it out. And so I had a lot of early career experiences that drove me towards, okay, wait, no, now I really do know what I love. I love being in a large enterprise. I love business and technology. I love being really curious about how do we help a business solve its problems, whether it's a Medicaid program or whether it is another enterprise that needs to figure out how the heck to make sure their bills of lading are automated and are feeding other data systems.
Another thing I want to say, though, is, and again, I know you and not everybody knows you, but you really care about people, right? And I think that sometimes people assume that people that are very interested in technology are not very human people that care about the humans impacted by it. So, when you talk about Medicaid, I know that it was about making sure that people had what they need, right? It's not just the fascination with technology. And I think that's something, when you think about some of these technical professions or business to business or, some people think that keeps you away from human beings, right? And in fact,
or that it replaces human beings,
right, or replaces, and I don't think that's the case. So talk a little bit, just again, I'm going to dig down into this talent thing because obviously I'm feeling it, right? So we're all feeling the talent thing, but what's the hardest thing to find right now?
Oh, hard. What is hard? Hard is finding that diamond in the rough that really shows you that they are curious, that shows you that they're passionate. What I see a lot of and have talked to a lot of are people who are maybe not being their full genuine selves. So first, let me appreciate your compliment to me about caring about people, because I do care about people, and I think what I want is for someone to come to an interview and come to an opportunity being their genuine selves, their authentic selves, of what is it that you love. And don't tell me what you think I might want to hear.
Right.
Tell me what you're passionate about. There's the piece of paper or the screen that has the specifics of what's
all the keywords
job
that got fed into
exactly. Like, I've written you the job description. You've obviously made it to the point of where we're having a conversation. Now let's have a real conversation. And I find a lot of people are very guarded and not always willing to be open about where they've been good at something, they've failed at something, what are they passionate about? Because I like to get past that initial screen of self-management.
Yes.
And so the people that I've hired and the team that I've built, it's been with people who I felt who they were from the word go.
Yes.
So
I think that is really important because, especially in marketing, right? It is about authenticity. If you're trying to tell stories, right? You want people that are going to be vulnerable, that are curious, that are going to find out what really matters, will say what really matters, right? That's really critically important. And I also have experienced what you're talking about, the entirely too rehearsed people who are not presenting their authentic selves. Okay, so in a minute, we're going to talk about what I like to talk about as the dynamic of turning a battleship in a bathtub. So working in large organization, which you say you love. So we will be right back with the Marketing Madhouse and Allyson Burroughs. We are back. This is Moira Vetter, your host with the Marketing Madhouse, and our guest Allyson Burroughs of Ricoh. And we've been talking about, evolutions in technology and how that impacts marketing. But I want to step back from marketing as a profession for a minute and kind of talk about working in these large organizations, right? In my company supports large, Fortune 5,000, Fortune 500 kinds of businesses. Talk a little bit about that. What you've been knee deep in trying to get this organization to move. We've talked a lot about agility. Just tell me about that.
So, I think first of all, I said it before, I love working in large enterprises. I like being in a big organization. I've also always worked for big old companies that have been around for a while. So I kind of cut my teeth on taking that curiosity edge and pushing people to think differently about how work gets done, whatever that work might be. So that's the energy I'm going to bring every time is, okay, this has worked really well, but how are we going to innovate and how are we going to advance and evolve what we're doing? And a big old company, sometimes it's very hard to get people to think differently because they get very comfortable in how things are getting done, how things have always been done. Well, we've always done it this way. Well, that's not how it works here.
Yep.
And I'm the one who's always going to say, we're going to do it differently. And I'm going to bring you on this journey and we're going to have fun.
Yep.
Like, this is going to be fun. It might be weird. It might be completely shocking sometimes.
And it might fail.
And it might
fail.
And that's going to be okay because we will be ready for if that happens, here's what we're going to do next to evolve. And we're going to be in lockstep, arms together, going into this as a team. I think that's the other thing is really building trust with a team. And that's coming back to like that open, authentic, and honest. You have to be fully yourself with your team and be kind with your team who aren't maybe necessarily ready for big change. Just to not coddle them, but to bring them along in the excitement and in the belief of what's possible. And to tell them, I've always got your back. And we're gonna get through this together, and it's gonna be awesome.
Well, we talk about that a lot. That if you're setting up actual marketing innovations and you want to experiment, some of it won't work, right? That is the point. To find, you only find the things that really work if you also find some of the things that do not work, right? So you can't punish that, or you won't have people that are willing to try things.
And there's one other really important piece of this and of being able to be successful or even be set up for success, and that is support and belief at the very senior levels of the organization. The reason that I came to Ricoh is because of Lauren Salata, who is at Ricoh because of Karsten Brun, our CEO. So our chief marketing officer, Lauren, and Karsten, our CEO, they really believe and are focused on the evolution of the business, which provides me and my team the air cover needed to be able to go be innovative and experiment and to try things. Without that type of support, I would be rolling a boulder up an endless hill every day of my life.
Well, and I think, unfortunately, I think people have probably witnessed that, right? When you're in an organization and they say one thing, but then leadership does not support the full journey that is ahead. It's interesting when you were talking about big old companies versus new little companies, and I have worked, for both and with both. I saw a head of innovation at Coca-Cola years ago who did a session on how scalers can't start and starters can't scale. And I think that that's where I think it is important to have partners and consultants and people brought in from entrepreneurial, because you mentioned, you have worked in an entrepreneurial organization. I think it really is important in these large organizations that are old and, do have people that are very set in their ways, to set everybody up to understand that we're going to bring the little guys and the really nimble people and the highly risk, very risk-takey, right? That's not a word, but risk-takers, into the organization, and it'll be good, right? We're going to, again, it might be weird, but it's going to be productive.
Yeah, and it's going to be worth it because big old companies are awesome.
Yeah.
Like, they are the engine, they've been the engines of innovation for decades. And the engines of, providing great jobs and great security and being sort of these bastions of support and innovation and creativity.
Corporate citizens.
Yes, exactly. So I think that there's a great need for both ends of the spectrum, and I love that the startups challenge the big old companies every day, and frankly, vice versa. And that's what makes the world go round.
It does. And then eventually they all, eat one another and they get acquired. But I mean, that's why that process happens, right? Because the new has magic and pixie dust and things that some of the older organizations lack, and it's going to take it'll take them too long to build it, or they can't build it, right? Because they're not set up with the same freedoms
and structures.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to I want to round out with some advice you have for leaders of marketing organizations. Everybody's shifting, but it sounds like you certainly have the backup you need from the CEO and the CMO. So what is your advice to others? Hopefully they have that support, but if they don't, do you have any advice for people?
So I think find the people who do believe in you. Mm-hmm. Connect with people that have that energy. Mm-hmm. It takes no time and no money to reach out to someone that you sat in a meeting with and you had you got that good gut feeling about that one person who said that one thing that you just loved. Yep. Do not be afraid to send a quick email and say, hey, I'd love to just chat with you. Mm-hmm. They don't have to be your manager. They don't even have to be in your same department. Yep. It could just be, and it frankly doesn't even have to be in your company. But find your tribe, find your crew that provides you with the support and nurturing that you need as a professional, as a person, as a contributor. Because that's really, in the early days of my career, I worked in some really challenging environments. Mm-hmm. And I finally made the decision to step away from entertainment PR and entertainment and consumer marketing to just say, okay, what do I really want? Mm-hmm. And it was in that moment of saying, okay, I need to start figuring out the people I do want to surround myself with. Right. That's when everything changed in my career, was when I took control of surrounding myself with the right types of people for me. Yeah. And what I have found that often it is outside. If you were in a large organization, it was the people outside the organization, because you could be more free about questioning, right? Things that you're seeing in front of you. I think that that's where I really leaned into some of the professional organizations, right? I get professional peers, and you say, what are you doing about that thing? We listened to that webinar, we saw that speaker. Are you guys working on that? That stuff is solid gold when you have those kinds of relationships. That's right. And that's actually what leads you to a next opportunity I hate the word networking, and yet that is how I've gotten every job I've ever had. It's through relationships. Yeah. So. Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I want to finish out today with a question that I have about brand greatness. And so when we think about companies that are really succeeding in market as a brand, right? So sales and marketing, succeeding as an employer, really, have an employer value proposition that is resonating. And then also that corporate citizenship thing that you talked about, right? That's the beauty of bastions of our economy and people who've been there, is that they have resources and they can provide support and longevity and hope. And, sometimes they're the only employer in town, right? In some places. Can you talk about a company or a brand that you think checks all those boxes? Well, actually, two very, very different organizations come to mind for me. Okay. And they're on opposite ends of the spectrum, and both Georgia-based. So on the big side is Delta. Yeah. I mean, they're a powerhouse global brand. People absolutely scramble and adore working for that company. Yep. And the good that they do in communities is just amazing.
I have to say I have witnessed that and experienced that firsthand because I participate on a nonprofit board that Delta was heavily invested in. Also have their frequent flyer card in my purse. I have a Delta Amex. So they're all around me in many regards.
Yeah, and in Atlanta, I mean, when I got out of college, there were 3 companies you wanted to try to work for: Delta, Turner, or Coca-Cola.
Right.
And so Delta is the first one that comes to mind. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, size-wise, is Stuckey's.
Yeah.
And Stephanie Stuckey's story of buying back the family business and everything that she's doing to grow this Georgia-based company and to regrow that company.
Yeah.
Providing local jobs, making sure that the pecans that are used in their candies and treats that are, by the way, really delicious.
Yeah.
She's helping to provide jobs. She's rebuilding the brand and doing really cool, fun brand work.
Yep.
And she's, the giving back to the community component and the employee brand component. I mean, she's helping give jobs to very rural Georgia communities, which is so amazing. And that's what builds community. And she's just a powerhouse, and she's like this unbelievable force to be reckoned with on social media, on LinkedIn.
Yeah, you want to talk about risk taking, making a difference, being vulnerable, being visible. She is and 100% authentic.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah, and I absolutely I am very taken in, and interested in her stories because she is authentic and interesting. Right, she's just shining a light on things that people never see, never think about. And I want to thank you for calling out Georgia companies, right?
Yeah.
That's even better that you came up with some Georgia companies. But I do think, to me, this is what this is about. Marketing isn't just about selling things, right? Marketing is about making a difference, being a full brand, and really helping the communities we live in, creating, responsible ecosystems by being smart and curious.
Yeah.
Well, I have really loved having my great buddy, Allyson Burroughs, on the Marketing Madhouse.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been fantastic.
It's really wonderful. And I hope to have you on in the future. I think that our paths have crossed multiple times over many years. And, I think marketing has come so far. It's such an interesting profession. One of the reasons I'm still completely engaged to this day is how much it has changed over the years, right? It's never the same thing. All right. Well, thanks so much. You have been listening to the Marketing Madhouse.
Tonight in Arkansas, there's a mother tucking in her daughter and turning off the light. A business owner is burning the midnight oil. An at-home dinner date is plating up possibility. And it's all happening under one roof. How? The power of a conversation, like the one John from Integrity Solutions had with First Horizon Bank about his vision for a sustainable mixed-use building. Now it's not just words, it's life. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/John. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.